how I got involved. I was actually on a tour with Glimmerglass Opera, and Larry heard about Tomatis on National Public Radio. And he was all excited to tell me about this thing he'd heard, and I kind of poo-pooed it, more than kind of poo-pooed it. But it sounded intriguing about using music for various approaches of peak performance, as well as mitigation of symptoms of, say, ADD, ADHD, mood issues, say anxiety, depression. What intrigued me, I guess, was the fact that Tomatis' father was an opera singer, and one of his first client populations were opera singers he was trying to help, and that's one of the things that I do. I'm a classically trained singer, and I was looking to optimize my own, sort of be in the moment, if you will, every time I get up and perform. And I found that to be the case. I found that auditory listening training has, among other things, like really helped with my sleep, given me a lot more creative, artistic energy. It has given me ability to be able to focus, be present in the moment, not worry about editing, if you will. Not worrying about the critic, your inner critic at the time. Just focusing on the task on hand, and worry about all the other stuff later, should you worry about that. Here's a classic case. I was singing down in Florida, Opera Naples, and rehearsals had gone really, really well, and I was doing a performance of HMS Pinafore, and I was singing Captain Corcoran, and Fair Moon to Thee I Sing, opening of the second act. Everything had been going fine that week, opening night. I had to go and float a high note towards the end, and I started thinking about it. And I said, oh, and rather than doing it, I started thinking about it. And I got to the high note, but I barely got off it. And I was so upset at myself and so mad that I almost kind of cacked in front of everybody, like my family. And I was thinking about that when I still had lines to do, at least one trio, another duet, I mean an entire act of Pinafore. So the next day I did my own personal training of neurofeedback and auditory training. As soon as I opened my mouth when I came on stage in the first act, I could tell I was physically grounded. I could tell my voice, the full timbre and color of my voice was there. And I was fine. I felt calm, I felt confident, and I felt ready to not only be on stage with my colleagues, but be ready for anything that might come my way. And so in the opening of the second act, on the second night, we started singing, everything sounded fine, and I just did it. I didn't worry about anything. I did it, flowed the high note, it was fine, came off of it, moved on, and I got a lot of compliments that night. So I believe this stuff works.
That was a great example. Better than mine. I got into auditory training and neurofeedback as a result, as Paul said, of that listening to that interview on NPR several years ago. Long time ago, I had been a pastoral counselor, but I had subsequently moved over to high tech to earn a better living. And one of my issues that had drawn me to that interview was restless sleep, along with the vast majority of my colleagues. And I have theories about the way we work in high tech interfering with REM sleep. But as it would happen, IBM sent me to work on a corporate contract in New Orleans, where at that time we were one of the few offices in the entire U.S. where you could do the Tomatis work. And I went and signed up, and in the third day of the program, I started sleeping like a baby. And 12 years later, I still do. And so I was sold completely at that point. Now, that being said, the 3 days of the program were not enough. You need to go through the full program, which takes 4 to 5 months, generally speaking, to spread it all out, to reinforce what you've done and make the results last. And then, as it would happen, once again, IBM sent me to Paris, and at that time, that was the only place in the world you could learn to be a Tomatis clinician. Also at that time, the handwriting was on the wall that my high-tech career was about to get exported to India. And I poked around, found out about the Tomatis Center in Paris and how I could become admitted as a student, and in summer of 2000 they took me. There's been no looking back. Not long after that, one of my new colleagues in the Tomatis world had stumbled upon neurofeedback and convinced me that that would be a really great complementary modality to add to the Tomatis work. And I will be ever grateful to her for turning me onto that, because she was exactly right. We've done some tremendous work with people combining the two modalities, individually and separately, but combining the two, it really amps up the power. And we're really happy doing this work. It's so much more satisfying than the high-tech work was for me, when people come in and tell us how their lives have changed, and that's a nice feeling.